اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. The month of Ramadan, as we all know, is a month of spirituality, is a month of worship. SubhanAllah, it is a month where we feel this atmosphere of nearness to God. The atmosphere itself, it helps us to get nearer to God. We worship God, we recite some supplications, we recite His words. We fast, and while we're fasting, you notice that in this month, subhanAllah, that there are some things that we try to abstain from doing, even if they are not necessarily haram, but they are maybe in the akhlaq standards, they're not advisable, or they're not good. And even if there is something that is reprehensible morally, we avoid it. If we're trying to, or if we are about to be angry, we say, Allahumma inni sa'im, so you try to avoid it because you are fasting. Because the atmosphere helps us with this. It is like someone in Umrah or in Hajj, when you're in the state of Ihram and you look at the mirror, you immediately remember that, I'm in a state now that I'm not supposed to look at the mirror. So you get back to your memory and consciousness. So this is the nature of this month. And in the night of Qadr, the Laylat al-Qadr, the night of destiny, the night of power, this great night, blessed night, we reach that pinnacle of spirituality and spiritual atmosphere. In the night of Qadr, we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one thing to remember is that this night, my dear brothers, my dear sisters, is not only for those who are worshippers of God. It's not only for those who are obedient to God, like yourselves, inshallah. The night of Qadr is a night even for the sinners. It is a night for those who are drowning themselves in sin, who are out there committing atrocities against themselves. This night is a night for them too. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is opening His doors, His gates for them to return to Him, to seek forgiveness from Him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very generous. The thing about this night is that it's a night of worship where we turn to God with our du'as, with our supplications. And one of the goals of worship, or let me say, one of the byproducts of worship, is that it instills in us this energy that is needed for change. Ramadan is a month where we're required to do some internal change that hopefully would translate to some external change in our lives. Worship allows you to have this flare in your heart, this energy that would drive change. When you perform Salatul Layl, yes, after you perform it, you realize this sense of energy that moves you to change. Because Salatul Layl is something that would bring you the benefit of this world and the benefit of the next world. When you read Quran, when you recite Quran, you feel there are some verses that infuse you with energy for change. Let me mention a story about a person at the time of our sixth Imam, Al-Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. By the name of Al-Fudayl bin Ayyad. That person was reported to have been what? An outlaw, a bandit. A bandit who cuts the road on caravans traveling. And that person, it is said that once he fell in love with a woman, and once he was trying to climb up a wall in order to see that woman. I mean, what more sins do you want to collect, right? And as he was climbing, he heard a person reciting Quran. Reciting the Quran, chapter 67, verse 16. أَلَمْ يَأْنِ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَن تَخْشَعَ قُلُوبُهُمْ لِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ. Has time not yet come for the heart of the believers to humble itself for the remembrance of God? And that person turned to himself and turned to God and said, "Oh God, the time has actually come." And he repented and he returned to God because of a verse of the Quran that was recited. And it is narrated that this person went to a random place and there was a group of men who were attempting to travel in the night. And some of them would say, "Look, let's travel tomorrow because there is this Fudayl on the way now, the bandit, he might also harm us." And then he heard people talking about him. He repented to God and he told them that they are safe, inshallah. See a verse of the Quran. So sometimes we're looking for this spark in our hearts. Sometimes, this energy starts in the form of inspiration, maybe from listening to the istighfar that we're going to recite tonight. 100 times istighfar. Why do we do 100 times, "Oh God, I seek your forgiveness"? It is like us, jump starting our heart. Sometimes when you turn on the engine of the car, if it doesn't turn on, you might want to try again and again and again and again until something happens and that engine starts. Maybe that spark happens in this istighfar. Maybe someone of these sinners like myself listens to a dua where, we are talking to God, we're saying, oh God, there's no one in the heavens and the earth, anywhere in the world, anyone who is worthy of being worshipped but you, oh God. And that maybe inspires sinners like myself. And then this inspiration that starts as a spark, it moves to a state. And then that person would want to come not only tonight to the mosque, but inshallah the night after tomorrow. And that state might become a habit as well. So this night is a night where we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we hope that it would drive that change for us. How many people that we've heard about or we know who've changed just because they listened to a sermon of Nahjul Balagha, for example, of Amirul Mu'minin? How many people have changed just because they have listened to a sermon given by some random person on a minbar? How many people who went to Hajj who were criminals, who were sinful to the core, and they returned as wali of God. They returned as agents of God on this earth because Hajj really changed them. Inshallah, we ask Allah that He may, inshallah, bestow upon us this energy tonight with whatever whatever we might recite, whatever we might do, that we carry that energy in our hearts, and that inshallah it changes us, it brings us, it attaches us, and attracts us closer and closer to God as much as we can, inshallah, with the generosity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's one point. The other point I want to remind of is that, look, my brothers, my sisters, we know about sufferings in the world, right? We have seen live the sufferings of our brothers and sisters in Palestine. I don't think this has ever happened in history, that we are able to see live a people being starved, bombed, destroyed, slaughtered, massacred in this way. And when we see these, actually our hearts break. Actually our hearts break. This break of your heart, this feeling that you have when you see these, when you think about these, that is the heart that you need to turn to God with. That is the heart that you need to pray to God with. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is more likely that He would accept your prayers when you turn to Him with a broken heart. Turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sincerely. As the narrations of our Imams tell us, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would accept the prayers of those who truly, sincerely turn to God. So let's turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with this heart and insist on Allah. We've been praying for 6 months. We shouldn't be tired. We should insist on God. In fact, the narrations from Ahlul Bayt teach us that Allah does not like when people insist on each other for their needs, but He loves it when we insist on Him for our needs. Insist on God. Pray again and again and again for all those who you know are suffering. Our brothers and sisters in Palestine, in Lebanon, in Iraq, in Thailand, as our brother mentioned now. The people who are suffering are so many in the world. Mention them. Mention them. If you can, or if you wish to prepare a list, even prepare a list of your du'as for these nights. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah, accept from all of you. Please do remember each other in your du'as. Please do remember all those in need. Please do remember all the marhumeen of your relatives and all those who are in need of shifa. Let's start, inshallah, our amal with salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.